On BBC2 in a moment, Clive James talks to Tracy Ullman and Peter Cook and investigates the steamier side of Italian television. There's another Midnight Caller here on One in 15 minutes after the news and sport with Michael Buerk and Bill Hamilton.
The government may ban many kinds of cheese to stop the spread of food poisoning. It says food products made from unpasteurized milk may be contaminated with listeria. And the world's first woman Anglican bishop is consecrated and told, go for it. Good evening. The government is now considering a ban on the sale of many kinds of cheese to stop the spread of food poisoning. The Agriculture Minister, John McGregor, says products made from unpasteurized milk may contain the bacteria called listeria, which causes an illness that can be dangerous to expectant mothers, children and the old. He intends to ban the milk and is to talk to the food industry about stopping the sale of its products, which include many soft and some farmhouse cheeses.
Although most of Britain's milk is now pasteurised, the Ministry of Agriculture would like to see the sale of untreated milk stopped altogether as part of its campaign to reduce the risk from listeria and other harmful bacteria.
We're really talking about comparatively small number of cases, but what we've been doing, and been doing ever since I've been minister, is acting on the advice we get when we think there's any risk to the consumer. And I think that therefore this is just another piece of work that we need to complete to ensure that we do have real food safety.
A ban on the use of untreated milk could also cover products made from it, including a number of British farmhouse cheeses. Using untreated milk is said to improve the flavour, but it's being argued that at the very least, all cheeses made in this way should be clearly labelled.
I think it would be helpful for those people who are at risk to be able to identify which cheeses are made from milk that hasn't been pasteurised. So probably the best way of tackling that would be to require all cheeses made with unpasteurised milk to be clearly labelled with that information.
Some, but not all, of the soft cheese included in the government guidelines is made from untreated milk. But today, many shoppers seem determined to continue enjoying their favourite cheese.
Will you continue to buy it?
Yes, and unless they said definitely don't buy it, I would, because I've never had any unfortunate experiences.
The site of a former chemicals plant near Manchester has been sealed off after traces of dioxin, one of the world's deadliest chemicals, were discovered. The plant at Stalybridge was destroyed in an explosion in 1981, and after carrying out tests, the local council sealed off the area with security fences. Trenches have been dug to prevent chemicals from leaking into nearby land, and the council has now called in 3 of the country's leading toxicologists to measure the concentration of dioxin. The Afghan government has accused Pakistan of planning an invasion. 4 days before the last Soviet units are due to leave, President Najibullah said on television that Pakistani troops are massing on the frontier and preparing to launch an attack against Jalalabad. This report from our correspondent on the frontier, Brian Barron.
This is one of the heavy weapons captured by the Mujahideen in the battle for Jalalabad. On the same front, the guerrilla force is using a captured Soviet-made rocket launcher. The Mujahideen say they've taken this village with casualties on both sides, but they're still outside the Jalalabad defense perimeter. Further south, more civilians have been crossing the Afghan border to take refuge in the Khyber Pass region of Pakistan. The figure is put at 25,000 in the past 2 months.
We came due to bombardment because there was continuous bombardment. The whole valley left, not only me, everybody have to leave.
At night, the fit men among them are often called away to the war. And the Mujahideen are planning renewed onslaughts both on Jalalabad and Kabul once the last Soviet contingent leave in 5 days' time. Pakistan officials here in Islamabad say a new wave of refugees is inevitable.
The Anglican Church has appointed its first woman bishop. The Right Reverend Barbara Harris was consecrated at a service in Boston, Massachusetts. An objector interrupted the service, claiming it was sacrilegious, but he was overruled by the congregation.
They came to a convention centre because no church was big enough for the 8,000 people who wanted to attend the consecration of Barbara Harris as the first woman bishop. There were no official representatives from other churches in the Anglican Communion, for the Episcopal Church is ahead of them on this, and even divided within itself. During the service, an open protest from a lay member from Illinois.
I declare in behalf of the majority of Episcopalians that this is not an action of the whole church.
But his was an unpopular objection, and the presiding bishop overruled it.
Is it your will that we ordain Barbara a bishop?
That is our will. She was ordained not just by acclamation, but by the laying on of hands by 55 other bishops, a symbolic act through which the church traces the authority of its bishops back to the apostles.
Your Holy Spirit, whom you have bestowed upon your beloved Son, Jesus Christ.
Then there were the symbols of office never before presented to a woman.
Go for it.
Bishop Harris then celebrated her first communion with 50 communion stations and chalice refill stations around the hall. Of the 457 Episcopal priests in Massachusetts, 90 are women. One of those women is now a bishop, a controversial move elsewhere, but very popular here.
Today we thank you for calling your servant Barbara to the office of bishop in your church.
It'll be years before the Church of England ordains women, but campaigners believe Barbara Harris has struck a decisive blow for their cause.
I feel very pleased. I feel delighted. Ecclesiastical men are very rigid, and they've got lots of layers we've got to get rid of.
It'll probably be a good thing. They can't do any worse than the men.
And we're praying for the day that women in England can be ordained priest and then later bishop.
That's just what conservative Anglicans are dreading. A prayer vigil organised by opponents of women's ordination was told events in America had already split their worldwide church in two.
The communion that we enjoy in the Anglican Church today is broken.
Well, it's going to cause a lot of, unhappiness, probably. A lot of argument, a lot of disagreement.
It's a step away from unity.
Tonight, the Anglican world is divided over whether it has witnessed a triumph or a trauma for the church.
Young Conservatives who are meeting in Southport have voted in favour of setting up a party organisation in Northern Ireland. It's a first step towards fielding candidates in the province. That's something Conservative leaders strongly oppose.
This conference is overshadowed by Andrew Tinney's right-wing challenge for control of the movement, currently chaired by the more left-wing Martin Woodruff. Despite advice from senior party figures like Lord Whitelaw not to rock the boat, delegates voted against party policy and in favour of organising in Northern Ireland, as proposed by Hugh Shooter of Beckenham.
We are not only denying the people of Northern Ireland their right to participate in their own government, we are also missing out on a great opportunity to strengthen our own party.
Were these decisions embarrassing for the government?
No, I mean, I can assure you I'm not embarrassed by it. Indeed, as I said, I'm not surprised and I'm not embarrassed by it, but I pay attention and I'm delighted by the fact that the arguments were put in a obviously robust way, but indeed in a what I would describe as chivalrous and well-mannered way.
The tug-of-war between left and right will come to a head in this hall tomorrow when hustings take place for the election of Young Conservative chairman. There have been some rowdy scenes in the past, just the kind of embarrassing behaviour that some say dissuaded the Prime Minister from visiting the conference this year.
Air traffic controllers have threatened to take industrial action this summer unless the government withdraws new training schemes for recruits. The controllers have called for urgent talks with the Transport Secretary, Paul Channon, over the plan to double the number of trainee controllers but halve their training period. A spokesman for the controllers, Bill Brett, said that if the talks with Mr Channon failed to produce an acceptable training scheme, there'd be a ballot on industrial action. And now, with news of First Division football action and Rugby Cup news, here's Bill Hamilton.
England striker Alan Smith kept Arsenal on course for the First Division Championship with a late winner against Millwall at the Den. Earlier, there had been considerable doubts about their ability to stretch their unbeaten run to 10 games. Jimmy Carter had given Millwall the lead before Brian Marwood put Arsenal level. A goal by Robert Fleck kept Norwich's hopes alive and gave them a welcome home win over Derby. Brian McClare scored twice as Manchester United's winning run continued at Sheffield Wednesday. So Arsenal stay 3 points in front of Norwich. Manchester United are now third. For Wimbledon manager Bobby Gould, his side's recent disciplinary record meant good behaviour was as important as points, particularly with Aston Villa, the visitors. Their cup match a fortnight ago had been an ill-tempered affair.
Homely and faintly ramshackle, Plough Lane's reputation for providing an agricultural brand of football has brought unwelcome notoriety. The star attraction, villainous Vinnie Jones, or should that be vilified Vinnie? His dismissal at Everton a week ago brought a wave of overreaction. His fans' response today predictable and passably justifiable. His overall record has been much improved. Not much has changed about the Wimbledon style, though. The long ball keeping Villa pinned back, frequently in a state of confusion. Fairweather, though, couldn't make it count. It was going to take something unorthodox to beat the Villa goalkeeper. Right on half-time, Fashanu provided it. Not till late in the second half did a disappointing Villa belatedly rouse themselves. Their only real chance created by McAnally for Ormondroyd. Wimbledon 1, Aston Villa 0.
In Scotland, Stuart Munro put Rangers ahead in the crucial top-of-the-table clash at Tannadice, but an own goal by Gary Stevens gave Dundee United a last-gasp equaliser. And United had even more reason to smile, for Celtic lost at home to Motherwell and dropped 4 points behind United and 6 behind Rangers. In Rugby League's Silk Cup Challenge Cup, Widnes gained a fine victory at Castleford by 32 points to 18. Either side would grace Wembley. Widnes took a step on the way by their breathtaking skill at speed.
Richard Ayres, that's a good ball to Alan Tate. Oh, he's going for the line. This looks a good try, and it is. Widnes forwards look quicker, they're making the breaks now, then he's got to move away to a fire to Darren Wright. It's still going to Mackenzie. Oh, magnificent catch from this hooker. He's in.
And another Widnes forward, Coloto, ended Castleford's second half rally.
Oh, he's intercepted. Coloto. What a fairy tale for this man. Emosi Coloto.
A group of statues more than 3,000 years old have been found buried under the Temple of Luxor in Egypt. They're being described as one of the greatest archaeological finds of the 20th century.
The chance discovery of the life-size granite statues was made by scientists taking samples of soil. The statues were found beneath the ancient Luxor temple on the east bank of the River Nile. One is of Amenhotep III, one of the most powerful pharaohs of the Egyptian New Kingdom. The statues are thought to have been hidden by priests to prevent members of an alternative religion destroying them. They were found 6 feet below the surface, and after 2 days of digging, 4 were brought out. They're said to be in excellent condition and have been covered in mud to protect them and absorb salt that's got inside the granite. Archaeologists say they expect to find plenty more of interest on the same site, statues which they say should complete a missing link in ancient history.
Tonight's main story again. The government may ban certain types of cheeses as part of its campaign to combat food poisoning. And a look at some of tomorrow's front pages. The Mail reports that the government wants us to turn back the clock. It's going to urge housewives to cook just like Mother. The Express warns that the French threaten a cheese war if Britain bans the import of soft cheeses. They'll ban our eggs. And Neil Kinnock's told the Sunday Times that he won't let party critics force him out of his job. That's it. Enjoy your Sunday lunch. From the newsroom, good night.
The struggle for the centre, Owen versus Ashdown. Paddy wants the doctor on the ropes, down if not out. But is he wise? Should he fight to the finish or call for a truce? On the record, referees. John Smith is also back in the ring. Can the Shadow Chancellor floor Nigel Lawson and woo the voters back to Labour? Find out with On the Record tomorrow at 1 o'clock on BBC1.
Good evening to you. Well, a dry, bright day in prospect for most of you tomorrow, but you'll have to go something to beat the south coast of England today, where the temperature was 12 and there was about 7 hours of sunshine. Mind you, there was plenty of rain about through the Irish Sea at 12 o'clock today, some pretty heavy rain sweeping through the Isle of Man. That band of rain's made progress south-eastwards in the last few hours, but it's breaking up all the time. The heaviest rain's moved off into the North Sea. Still a few heavier pulses, though, to come in the next few hours. But by the end of the night, I think most of the rain will have gone, just confined to the Channel coast here and the extreme southeast of England. Probably turning a bit misty in central parts, and some further blustery, wintry showers to come up in the north with those gale force winds continuing. Could just be a touch of frost tonight, but most places escaping it pretty well. Now that's the weather chart for tomorrow. This little bump of high pressure coming across, that's going to give us the fine prospects. Just a little bit of dampness in the extreme southeast to begin with, maybe some mist around as well, but that's soon clearing away. And these showers further north fading away through the morning as well. But eventually, towards the end of the afternoon, you'll find some rain getting back into the extreme western part of Ireland there. Temperatures not at all bad, about 8 to 10. That's the upper 40s Fahrenheit. So that's it.
Day by Day Live, a week of rail watching starts this Monday afternoon at 2:15.
The man we shall all be watching in 50 minutes tonight is Jasper Carrott. And now on BBC1, it's Jack Killian to the rescue in Midnight Caller.